We're going into the 270R Championship. Now, if you were watching the road sport races earlier on, you'll notice some really interesting differences between the categories here. First of all, there are no front lights on the 270R. That's obviously a weight saver, and also no windshield as well. Things get a little bit more interesting in this category. You've got a little bit more horsepower to play with. The teams up the tempo a little bit in terms of the professionalism, and the races are longer. 20 minutes earlier, half an hour for these guys. So obviously they're going to have to work a lot harder behind the wheel. They call this the Coming of Age Championship within the Caterham paddock. So let's head over and go and talk to the man. Starting from pole position, Stephen Lyle has obviously got an incredible amount of work to do in this race. But fortunately, the weather seems to be on his side this time, because now that cheeky, pesky rain seems to have finally started to dissipate. So let's see if we can grab a word with Stephen Lyle from pole position on the grid. Stephen, the perfect place to be starting off the weekend from, but a lot of opportunities to have a great scrap out there with your opponents.
Yeah, there's only one way from here though, isn't there? But yeah, we've just got to maintain it. Just try and keep up the pace, and if we can defend, then we can defend. If not, then hang on to whoever goes past.
Well, one thing you don't have to panic about now to a certain degree is the weather, because obviously it's now decided to make its mind up.
Yeah, it's taking the mickey out of us. We needed it wet. We were quick in the wet, we wanted it to rain, and it's the only time of the day it's dried up, but we'll be all right.
Well, one of the things I've noticed about this paddock, particularly in 270R, is the camaraderie, the banter between you all. You've got a real respect for each other out there.
Yeah, I mean, we've come from years of karting where nobody on the grid even speaks to each other. Everybody here gets on well. Yeah, it's good.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully it's going to be as entertaining as it is cheerful. Good stuff.
Thank you.
It's really good stuff from this particular category. Let's have a quick word with Blair McConaughey. He's going to be sharing the front row of the grid. Blair, this is a very competitive field, one of the most exciting and certainly the closest in terms of the Caterham field out there. How do you gain an advantage on that man alongside you?
By hoping it doesn't rain. I think we've worked out through qualifying that Stephen's just, I guess all his karting experience has paid dividends. He's really, really good in the wet. So there was a lot of talk in the paddock. Is it going to, 5 or 6 different apps on your phone trying to work out where the rain's coming from? Will it arrive in time? Will it not? Personally, I'm quite glad it's dry. So hopefully we can work together for a bit to get away from the pack and then see how it finishes after that.
That's very interesting. He wants it to rain. You don't want it to rain. Do you know any decent wet weather haikus?
It doesn't matter what you wish for, the opposite will happen.
Fantastic. Good luck with it.
Cheers.
There's some amazing competitors in this field, and as the two drivers have just mentioned, there is such an incredible waft of competitiveness amongst this grid. You've got Dan Clayfan there in 3rd position on the grid, Fraser Jones P4. We've just had the whistle go, so I have a feeling the drivers are going to head out onto the circuit any moment now. Indeed they do. They go off into their positions. This is the pressure moment now for the drivers, when they really start to work their magic, getting themselves ready out on the circuit. In this mindset, obviously the drivers are trying to just get themselves dialed in, get that focus ready. It is definitely going to be a fever pitch race, and for half an hour, Scott, you're in the box seat.
Certainly am, as I like to think so, Jake. But yes, thank you very much. Good to hear from some of our front runners in the 270R Championship, and we are getting set then. 3rd Caterham race of the day. Just once again, if you hadn't just come back from our break, welcome back to our viewers on the Caterham Cars stream. Good to have you back with us for our 3rd Caterham race of the weekend. It is, for as Jake mentioned, the Coming of Age Championship, as many call it, the Motorhole Caterham 7 270R Championship. So this is the middle step in the 5-step Caterham Motorsport ladder. You start, of course, in Academy, then Road Sport, then here in 270R, and 310R. You upgrade the car through each of those 4 stages, so the next 3 stages after Academy, and then for the 7 Championship UK, you then pick up a dedicated chassis with a new engine, different tyres, different gearbox, different suspension. It's a whole new race car, but you keep this particular car for your first 4 seasons of racing with Caterham Motorsport. That's what makes it one of the most cost-effective and excellent ways to go racing as an overall package. So, quickly run you through the grid then. Stephen Lyle, as you mentioned, starts on pole position. Points leader, Blair McConaughey starts alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then it's Dan Clayfan and Fraser Jones, followed by Duncan Cook and Ryan Errol on the 3rd row of the grid. And then Carl Jones and Harry Eyre, the 2 main contenders to try and challenge Blair McConaughey, back on the 4th row of the grid. That wet weather conditions really did mix things up in qualifying, didn't it? Then it's Paul Farrell and Peter Wales rounding out the top 10 from John Cox and Darrell Cresswell. William Brunt and Tim Steele come next from Alan Curtis and Demetrius Melas. Then we've got the 61 of McLean, who appears to be a new driver in the mix. I've only got a surname of McLean, so welcome to him on the grid this weekend. He starts alongside the 99 of Michael Curley. Rounding out the top 20, back in 19th place is Wes Payne. I expect him to be much higher, but he's someone who is quite one to watch out for, but he had some issues by retiring from the first race at Silverstone, so he's got some points to try and make up, and he's back down in 9th in the points at the moment on drop scores, so quite a bit of work to do, particularly here this afternoon from 19th on the grid. Alongside him on row 10 is Paul Herndon, then it's Stephen Hutchison and Roger Gaunt on the 11th row of the grid. There's Oliver Smith, David Morgan and Richard Hoare to round out our 25 car grid for this weekend. So, in the championship standings, we have got a set of scores which include drop scores, and everyone's sorted by drop scores. So you drop your worst 2 results in the 270R Championship, and the leader is Blair McConaughey, the car that starts on the right, the white car with the black nose. He is the championship leader. He's having the year of his life so far, because for the past 2 seasons, a pesky rival called Tom Willis has been able to snatch the title from him on both occasions, both first in the Academy and then in the Road Sport Championship. So with 270Rs, he now, with Tom Willis only doing sporadic rounds as an invitation and guest driver, and who's therefore invisible to score points, means that even if Tom Willis wins a race and beats Blair, Blair still gets the maximum score of points for a win that you would do if you finished ahead of him on the road anyway. So Blair McConaughey then leads the championship by, on drop scores, 8 points from Harry Eyre, who's of course back on that 4th row of the grid alongside Carl Jones, who is just behind Harry in the points. He's a further 7 back on 81 on drop scores, and he's actually level with Rob Keogh. So Rob, who is 4th of the championship, is not here unfortunately. So Rob, who switched to Caterham across from Ginettas, he took a year out from in 2020 due to for obvious reasons. Something called C, which we like to prefer not to mention, of course, from the effect of the world. Since March last year. So 4th for Rob Keogh in the points, but he's not here. Stuart Bell, I believe, is also not here this weekend, so he's another one of the top 5 who will drop down. I think we don't have Chris Ephraimidis either, so he's back in 6th, but Fraser Jones we do have, and Fraser is back a little further back. Well, here's the confirmation of the grid anyway on the screen. So Stephen Lyle and Blair McConaughey on that front row, and Stephen Lyle was on pole, but look at that, almost a second compared to Blair McConaughey. It's then Dan Clayfan and Fraser Jones on the 2nd row of the grid. Duncan Cook and Ryan Errol come next on row number 3. Then the 2 main championship contenders to challenge Blair back on row 4, Carl Jones and Harry Eyre. Watch for them, they definitely won't stay there back in 7th and 8th places. 9th and 10th for Paul Farrell and Peter Wells. Some drivers a little bit out of position thanks to those weather conditions. Some drivers preferring wet compared to dry. 6th row for John Cox, he'll start alongside Darryl Cresswell, another driver who is quite prominent on his day. Back to row 7, where of course we've got William Brunt and Tim Steele, who will be looking to try and make their runs through. William Brunt has been quite a front runner in the previous times, particularly when he's been raced before in Road Sport and I think Academy previously. Alan Curtis and Demetrius Malas, who another driver who shouldn't be that far down, but again, the weather didn't really play favours with him. They've got McLean in 17th place, and then Michael Curley rounding out the top 18 drivers. The top 20 completed by Wes Payne, who again is another driver who, if he's got enough pace in the dry, definitely I don't think will stay there from the 10th row of the grid with Paul Herndon alongside him. Stephen Hutchison and Roger Gaunt come next on row 11. And then the last few cars on the grid, as we mentioned, are Oliver Smith, David Morgan, and then Richard Hoare in car number 48, who will round out our 25 car grid as they set off in the bright, beautiful August summer sunshine here at Brands Hatch. What stormy weather. It's absolutely glorious here this afternoon as the cars make their way. There's the back of the 25 car grid. As you can see, the weather is absolutely beautiful here at Brands Hatch. We had those weather storms earlier on this morning in qualifying, which affected things, particularly with some heavy rain showers that came very briefly and disappeared. But thankfully, it's a bone-dry track. It's about 15 degrees out there, so it's a nice, comfortable temperature, nice breeze. I'd say it's perfect conditions for weather for motorsport this afternoon. So the cars weave this way and that in order to get some heat into their tyres. I don't think we haven't had them doing second green flag laps, although whether 1 or 2 of them will, because the conditions might have changed substantially between when they did their qualifying and then their first race. But I suspect by the fact that they are a bit slower on the pit strike and weaving side to side and warming up the brakes, I suspect we won't get that. There's someone enjoying the brighter skies at some overflying aeroplanes, it seems. It's Spitfire, being told by the director. Thank you for that. So there's a Spitfire flying overhead. So I'm sure these guys will be like land-born Spitfires here with these guys as they come through onto the grid. So just quick colour check then. It is on pole position. It's Alistair Lyle who has the kind of sort of grey and orange car on the inside of the front row of the grid. The white car with the black nose, that's Blair McConaughey. Dan Clayfan's car is the black and red car on the second row of the grid. The black and white car on the outside is Fraser Jones. Duncan Cook's car is the predominantly, I think, blue car on the left side of the third row of the grid. The green car on the third row is Ryan Errol and car number 33. So we're getting set then, the last couple of cars in position. There goes the green flag at the back of the field. And we are all set for this first Caterham 7 270R race, sponsored by Motul. All set here at Brands Hatch with Lyle and McCulloch on the front row of the grid. Can the champion either extend his lead? Will the likes of Carl Jones and Harry Ayre make it from the fourth row of the grid? Well, they've made up a good start already. They've managed to get past Duncan Cook from the third row, but it's a great start from the outside of the front row already for McConaughey as they head into Paddock Hill Bend. It was also a decent start for Ryan Errol, who has gone up from 6th, he's into 5th position already, darting his way through the pack. Now they make their way up towards Druids for the first time. As we mentioned, it's a half an hour race, which means if we do get into some frantic battles, they're going to have to keep it up for half an hour. So 30 minutes is quite a long time in a Caterham race, but time flies definitely when you're having fun, particularly in a pack as big and competitive as this. So out of Graham Hill Bend they go. It's McConaughey who leads the way. And up into, I think, second place has gone Fraser Jones. And then down to third, but trying to get the position back is Stephen Lyle, forcing his way up the inside at Surtees, and he's got through. He's forced Jones off line a little bit. There's Clayfan under attack from Ryan Errol. And then trying to make their way through now are both Carl Jones and Harry Ayre. Harry Ayre, I think, is in the dark British Racing green Caterham, whereas Carl Jones is in the predominantly, I think, black Caterham with the green striping on it. So watch for those two to come back through the field. And the outside there looks the Dan Clayfan on the number 14 of Fraser Jones. He's now under threat from Ryan Errol. He looks up the inside, and look, there is Carl Jones. You can see him trying to make it 3 abreast for fourth position. And Carl Jones goes round the outside of Fraser Jones. I don't think they're related, but Carl Jones right round the outside of Fraser. Cheers for that, Fraser. Up the inside he goes, he's going for it again. Ooh, that was very close. The thing with Caterham racing is to get some of these drivers that will have raced for several seasons. They can race that hard and fast, and they don't make contact. What's also happened, you can see, change from the lead, because Alistair Lyles just said to Blair, you took the lead from me, I'll take it back if you don't mind, thank you, from pole position. So Lyle is back into the lead then, past McConaughey, to come out of Clark Curve, back onto the pit straight to end the second lap of racing. Down the pit straight they go then. So it is Lyle that leads, McConaughey in second place, it's Clayfan third. It's the Joneses, Carl and Fraser in fourth and fifth. Harry Ayre's up to sixth, Darryl Cresswell's up to seventh. It's then eighth for the number 13 car. Farrell is ninth, and it's Peter Wells in 10th position. So it is Cook in 9th position, and then Farrell and Wells down to 10th and 11th. Pack heads its way out through Druids for the third time. The first proper flying lap, the fastest lap of the race, went to, no surprise, Alistair Lyle, 55.149. There's 38 and 53. That is Wes Payne, who's now ahead of Jeff Steele. So there's a change on between those two drivers. That's a switch of position. So another spot for Wes. I did say he's another driver who started deep in the field, wouldn't stay there. So lots of battling going on. 61 further back there is, if I confirm his number on my timing screen, 61 is our driver that's simply just called McLean on the timing screen, but I haven't got a first name for him. So McLean is one of our late sort of new entrants to the championship, making his debut here this weekend. So it's always nice to see new drivers tackling Caterham. It's not just drivers who have done the academy before or come up through the ranks. You get some drivers like Rob Keogh, for example, who's sadly not here, who does jump into any stage of the Caterham, or apart from the academy, any stage above academy, to give racing a go. And you usually do get some drivers slotting in from 270s, 310s, and of course the 7 UK Championship UK, and they do tend to come up and give Caterham a try after the first 2 championships have been completed. So Glenn McConaughey then is being slightly backed into Dan Clayfan here, with Ryan Errol and then Carl Jones also closing in. So we've got a top 5 breakaway here. Lyle leads it. Glenn McConaughey quite fancies leading at this point. He's looking to the outside of Stephen as they come back down towards the top end of Paddock Hill Bend, side by side across the line. That was between, who was that between side by side? That was the 31 of Cox and I think Steele as well, so that was pretty close between them. It was actually 40 and 30, sorry, it's Farrell and Cook who were separated across the line by 11 thousandths of a second. Now up into position, looks like up to 4th place has gone Carl Jones. He's got past Dan Clayfan. So his next target will be Ryan Errol, who has also got past Dan. So Dan's lost 2 positions since he came across the start-finish line just a few moments ago. I suspect it must have been set up by the run through Paddock Hill Bend. There goes Lyle, heading that pack. The second pack is headed up now by Harry Ayre. He's in the Caterham, which has got the Team Lotus colours. That's the British Racing Green Caterham with the yellow stripe and yellow nose on the front. Car 55. Now they make their way down the pit straight again. Fraser Jones back to 7th now. Darrell Cresswell 8th. Duncan Cook 9th. Paul Farrell rounding out that top 10. Stephen Lyle, who incredibly you see has a novice cross on the back, so he's certainly not driving like he's a novice. He's driving like he's been doing it for years. And impressive stuff from Stephen. Back towards Druids. Still McConaughey just holding on for the time being. There's plenty of time to go, so he's got enough time just to keep on applying that pressure and try and set Stephen up for a move at some point. It's all about for a driver, how long can you keep up with just resisting that pressure from start to finish? If you get one driver that's all over you from the very outset, the great drivers can just resist it and hold on. There's a move in the midfield there as someone tried to make a move just ahead of Wes Payne. That must have been Paul Farrell and Peter Wells, I think. Also in there is Wes Payne in there too. Battling also, I think Darrell Cresswell's not too far away either. So lots going on towards the bottom of the top 10 and just outside it. Leaders come back across the line. Carl Jones sets the new fastest lap of the race, 54.860. And if he hadn't set that, it would have gone to Dan Clayfans. He's just done a 54.9. So those two are the fastest men on the track at the moment. So Carl Jones is looking to try and get himself into the lead too. And he's getting stuck in here. And you can see there that Paul Farrell's got past Dan Clayfans. So Ryan Farrell's got past Dan Clayfans. Sorry, Ryan Farrell. It's Ryan Errol. I'll get my name right eventually. Ryan Errol is up into he's in 4th position. He's got back past again. And Dan Clayfan's been shuffled down to 5th. So a bit of a change. McConaughey going on the attack into Surtees. And Harry Ayre has broken away from that second group. He's now pulling away from them and starting to try and latch onto the back of this quintet to make it a 6-pack at the front of the field. They come out of Clark Curve. Stephen Lyle under threat from Blair. Really feel it's his year as he looks to the outside line. Look at the momentum he carries all the way to Paddock Hill Bend. He gets under brakes, but Lyle won't give it up easy. And now McConaughey looks for that undercut, looks for the switch back on the exit, gets the pull up the hill towards Druids. He's fully alongside, which means that Lyle has to give him the room. He will try and survive round the outside as Carl Jones watches on, waiting for any fireworks between them. They are still just about side by side. Lyle will go back up the inside to try and defend, but McConaughey sees it coming. But even though he does see it coming, he does get a slightly better exit, and again they're going to go side by side down the back straight. Down Cooper Straight, into Surtees. And again, watch that green and yellow machine of Harry Ayre in 6th position, right at the back of shot. The more that these 5 cars continue to battle amongst each other and hold each other up, the quicker Harry Ayre will get onto the tail of them. And if he's got the pace, will start to pick them off one by one if he can get himself through. New fastest lap of the race, I should mention, has gone to Wes Payne. He's down in 9th position, but he's just put in a 54.859. He's up to 7th place now, 1 position behind that man, Harry Ayre, in car 55. So watch for Wes Payne if he can start to close in. He's got a gap of how far behind is he at the moment? He's a couple of spots back. We'll have to wait and see where he is. So I think we've got a car whose transponder is not properly working, because it's showing that Harry Ayre's in 5th position, but that's not quite right. I think it's Ryan Errol's who's not working properly. So Ryan's definitely there in what's now 5th position. It's showing on my timing screen as having Harry Ayre in 5th, but that's not right, because you can see the green and black car, that is Ryan Errol, and he is in 5th position. So yes, he's been just back in by the timekeeper, so he's back into P5. But our leaders make their way down the pit straight. They hug that inside line of the pit wall right next to the grass. Just behind, you can see here, that is Wes Payne. He's just got past Nick Cresswell. So Darrell Cresswell. I'll get my names right eventually one day. Darrell Cresswell up into 7th place back again. Looks like Darrell tried to get back past on that same lap and did so momentarily, but now that Wes has got put through again, the kind of pearlescent coloured Caterham, car number 38. It's not just one colour, it's several. It looks at one light like it's blue, but one light looks like it's sort of shiny pink. Oops, oh, that's Harry Ayre off the road. Harry Ayre has to spin on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. He must have gone too wide, or he's tried to get past somebody right on the tail. Meanwhile, there was a battle on. Now then, what's happened here? It was just away from our cameras. We've seen that Carl Jones is into the lead now. Stephen Lars now 2nd, and Blair McConaughey is now 3rd. And as they come through the league, this is a bit further back. This is car 40 that's having a shot. That's Paul Farrell. He's at the head of this next group of cars, which I think includes Peter Wales, Jeff Steele, and William Brunt. So all sorts going on in front here. There's Wes Payne from Darrell Cresswell. And then Fraser Jones, who's back in 7th place. So, it's all changed around at the front though. Carl Jones now leads, Stephen Lyle's now 2nd, and Blair McConaughey's now 3rd. Dan Clayfan 4th, and Wes Payne 5th. And Harry Eyre, as we mentioned, has dropped down the order. He's outside, I think, even the top 20. Where's he gone? He's all the way down to... he's come through, but he's in absolute last, 24th position. So, whatever happened off camera, sadly, has put him right out of contention after such a strong drive through to just about get onto the back end of that leading 5 cars in front of him. There's William Brunt and the golf-coloured blue and orange car, just trying to get around Jeff Steele in the silver and yellow machine. William, who was a front runner in his academy days, is certainly trying to get himself back on the pace here, just on the fringes of the top 10. He's going to try and line him up for a pass here. He's going to try and get himself into that top 10's position. Jeff Steele has it, but William Brunt wants it. He's going to look to the outside. Again, just put himself back on that ideal racing line. He wants that undercut as he comes through. Meanwhile, change from a lead. Up the inside goes Carl Jones. Squeezes Stephen Lyle wide. And here comes Blair McConaughey trying to get back past him for 2nd position. Dan Clayfan having a great race in 4th, keeping with the leading group. But look at the way Stephen Lyle, he almost just nudged the back of Carl Jones's car. A little kiss on the back of the rear end of Carl Jones's car. Sweeps to the inside in towards Surtees. And he's, I think, back through again. There's a piece of bodywork that's come off. One of the wings has come off somebody. And can't quite catch who it was, but someone's car's just a tiny bit lighter. So now Stephen Lyle makes his way onto the pit straight, now with the threat from Carl Jones again. It's still Lyle, Jones, McConaughey, Clayfan, and they're side by side again. The outside move, underbrake, and they come level as they come towards the turn apex, and Lyle really parked his car in the middle of the road and forced Carl Jones to have to back out of any potential move round the outside. Stephen Lyle, he might have a rookie cross the back, but he's driving very smart indeed to try and hold off some very experienced drivers who've been racing in this championship for the last 2 seasons. Brilliant stuff from Stephen at the moment. Say, definitely not, his racecraft at the moment definitely doesn't befit his novice status. He's driving a little bit higher than his level, at a higher level than his novice status suggests. So he's definitely seems to have some decent natural pace behind the wheel of a Caterham. He's holding off these very fast drivers at this point in time, but he's got to do so now for the next 18 minutes, and that's not going to be any easy task by any stretch of imagination. So Stephen Lyle then brings them back onto the pit straight once more, and that lead get the trade, you can see that it's starting to just close back in and get a little bit bigger. Whereas Payne sets the fastest lap of the race. Now he's up to 5th position, so he can smell the front RAF. I think I just saw a glimpse of him there. As here comes Blair McConaughey, taking advantage of where's Carl Jones getting held up there. He's now going to look to the outside line to challenge and mount the pressure on Stephen Lyle. Carl Jones says, "Excuse me, Blair, I'll have that back if you don't mind, thank you." Back into 2nd place. And now, look, there's Wes Payne. You can see him, look, the shiny pink pearlescent number 38 car is all the way up into 5th position. Also in there too is Darrell Cresswell in the number 8 machine. There he goes. And look at that, was Cresswell. Was that going past both of those? Was Wes Payne going past the Dan Clayfan? 7th place also for Fraser Jones in the black and white Caterham. There he is at the back of the train. But lots of scraps going on here, and it's those cars that started deeper in the field that are starting to make the progress forwards towards the field. And it means that one thing we talked about earlier on, the harder this lot in front keep on holding each other up, the much easier it is for the task of those behind them to try and catch them, to do just that, to catch up to them and to latch onto the tail. So where's Payne's car, which definitely can't miss. It certainly stands out with that pearlescent paint scheme. It's either, when you look at it at a certain angle, it's either pink or it's blue. So certainly quite unique looking paint scheme. He's up to 4th now. Possible 3rd place. He's having a dive up the inside. He has a look and just wasn't far enough alongside under the braking zone to get himself through. So he had to sit back behind Blair McConaughey, who in turn is still chasing Carl Jones, who in turn is still chasing Stephen Lyle. So that's all action at the front of the field so far. There's a big scrap going on for 8th behind. We'll focus on the leaders for now, but there's a big scrap going on for 8th between Peter Wales, Paul Farrell, Jeff Steele, Ryan Errol was in there, William Brunt, Paul Herndon. Lots of drivers in the mix for those final top 10 spots and beyond. Here comes Wes Payne. He wants a podium. Side by side into Paddock Hill Bennett. Side by side for the lead. They're 2 by 2 into Paddock Hill. Down the other side, up Halewood Hill. A little wide for Carl Jones over the curves, but they all stay as they cross the line. Closing back up into Druids, also getting close now. Dan Clayfan starting to close the gap in, as is also Darryl Cresswell and Fraser Jones. It is 7 for the podium at least, if not the victory. And there's still, believe it or not, 15.5 minutes to go. We still haven't hit halfway just yet. We're just about to. And already we've got plenty of stories here to look at, and there's plenty of speculation and plenty of reasons to stay invested here. Safety car's been called. Safety car's been scrambled on my timing screen, so everyone will back up and back off the pace. So safety car's been deployed. We're just waiting to see if... Well, they're still racing. And, yeah, Wes Payne saw that, so he was just about to make a move on Darryl Cresswell. There's a big lockup for Fraser Jones, which really caught him out. And that's the reason why there was a car just off there in the gravel track. Now, I was about to try and catch who it was before we cut to it. It's Ryan Errol off the road. Ryan Errol in car 33. He was in the fight for the top 10 positions. I suspect it was quite a tightly bunched pack. Either he's just misjudged the speed into the corner and gone off himself, or potentially he was helped, but not having seen that on the camera, it's not 100% as to the exact cause of why he's in the gravel trap. The simple question, did he jump or was he pushed? I'm not quite sure at the moment. So the safety car has left its position just on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. There it is. And so once again, we get an appearance now for the 4th race in a row from the RunYourFleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car. That's somebody's, I'm quite sure what that is actually. Whether it's a piece of bodywork or it's that might be one of the wings in the car that someone's possibly run over, and that's possibly some of the fiberglass as a result, I think. It's off the racing line, so it shouldn't cause too much of a problem. So what this now does, of course, is it brings the pack back together. It means we're going to get quite a nice sprint to the second half of the race. The rescue and recovery crews are going to head down to perform a snatch to try and grab Ryan Errol's car out of the gravel, and they'll put it behind the barriers, or at least up against the barriers, to make sure it's the furthest away from the track as possible. And then that means that when we go forwards into our next couple of races, we've got, after this, 4 more races. We've got our 2 Caterham Academy Championship races, which are sandwiching the first of 2 this weekend for the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club's Southern Division for their Super Saloons and Tin Tops. And then we round off today's action with the first race of 2 for the weekend for the Caterham 7 310R Championship. And of course tomorrow we've got extra action. The Academy heads off, and that's replaced by not just the Track Attack Race Club for their another appearance on a BRCC live stream, the 2nd this season, but also we get our second look on live stream of the excellent Zio Prototype Cup, which is new for 2021. I know that both Grace Williams, who's the coordinator, and her father Duncan Williams, who's of course been a long-term sports prototype racer, have been working incredibly hard behind the scenes to get that off the ground, and this is their second meeting. They're very pleased with the 15-16 car entry that they have, and they said there's possibly as many as 20 for the final meeting of the year for them at Donington Park at the end of September. And of course on top of that, they're going to move forwards to continue to build the grids and get more sports prototypes back out in that fantastic mixed class sports prototype series. Very much is reminiscent of when we had the OSS Championship a couple of years ago. So it certainly almost feels a bit like in a way, a slight rebirth of that championship in a series in a way. But it is a series, which means that it's just to get it off the ground and to find some interest. So that'll be in action tomorrow. So be sure to keep an eye on that when we go live tomorrow. Their 2 races will be in the afternoon after lunch. It'll be the race 15 and the very final race of the weekend, race number 20. So be sure to tune in for that if you're watching on the BRCC stream. So, of course, hello to everyone who's watching on our live stream feeds, both on Facebook and on YouTube, both the Caterham and BRCC streams. So, of course, for Caterham, it's just the Caterham race that we're showcasing on your feed. If you're watching the BRCC feed, you have everything that's racing this weekend, including the excellent Formula 4 race that we had. Of course, we've got that Classic and Modern Motorsport Club Tin Tops and Super Saloons race coming up in a couple of races' time after this one. We then have, of course, after this one, we've got our first of 2 Academy races, then the CMMC Southern Saloons and Tin Tops, and another Academy race for the white group, and then the 310Rs will round off the action for today. So, just to quickly reaffirm the point situation coming into the weekend, the lights are still on the safety car, I can see out the window, so no change for them. So, the point situation coming to the weekend, we mentioned, this is now on drop scores we're counting, is 102 points after the 2 worst results taken away for Blair McConaughey. He was leading in the points overall anyway by 10 points. That gap has only reduced to 8 on drop scores to Harry Eyre in 2nd place. 3rd place for Carl Jones, 4th Rob Keogh, who's not here this weekend. 5th is for Stuart Bell, who's not here. 6th for Chris Ephraimidis, who's not here. And then we have 7th place for Fraser Jones, 8th for, and again, forgive me, I've got the name wrong here, it was Tim Steele, not Jeff Steele, forgive me for that. Jeff Steele is someone who's quite prominent at BMW, so not Tim Steele, so my apologies for that. So Tim Steele is equal 7th with Fraser Jones on, let's have a look, on overall points, he's equal. Wes Payne is currently 9th, because I'm sure with the result he gets here he'll start to improve much quicker. And then in 10th at the moment is Will Rossetti, who again is not here this weekend, but he's certainly trying to make up as many points as possible. So 9.5 minutes to go in this race, still under the safety car. The recovery of Ryan Errol's car is still continuing. I think they're almost done. The car's up in the air, being carried up by the crane. It's just being put behind the safety barrier, so it's just leaving its site now, just out of my commentary box window, which means we should, I think, hopefully, given that everyone is so tightly bunched together, we might even get the restart this time by, if not, I'm pretty confident, next time by, not the one this time I will go across the line, but this lap after this one. Get them going again. Now, arbor lights out on the safety car. The answer is... I'm not sure they're off just yet. I was trying to keep tabs to see if they were off or not. They're still going around at a certain pace. Are they off? We need to. It disappeared from my view. I'm trying to see if we can have a look at the safety car, see if the lights have indeed gone off, because everyone is stacking up. So it suggests that they might have done, but if we can get a shot of the safety car just to confirm that, that'd be quite nice to see. So make their way back around again. And I think, no, we're going to get one more time around, I think, so rather than that, because they're just repositioning the snatch vehicles. So, still the order remains the same. Stephen Lyle in the lead, Carl Jones in 2nd place, Blair McConaughey is 3rd, 4th for Wes Payne, 5th for Dan Clayfan, 6th for Darryl Cresswell, 7th for Fraser Jones, 8th for Peter Wales, 9th for Paul Farrell, and 10th for William Brunt. So after this weekend, we're going deep into the second half of the season. Now we've got Croft coming up at the beginning of September. We then have, at the beginning of October, we have Snetterton on the 300 circuit, which is where we finished the season last year. And then we have Cabell Park just about towards the end of the festival, I think, of these month, a couple of weeks later, to finish off the season, which is where they started 2020 last year. So plenty of great circuits coming up, which will certainly see the 270R title settled, as well as many others in the Caterham Motorsport paddock. Now then, the safety car lights have definitely gone out this time, which means it is time for Stephen Lyle to assume the role of safety car in this pack. And so he now decides when he wants to put his foot down to build up the revs and to get this race back underway again. There is 7 minutes to go. Who is going to come out on top? Stephen Lyle is going to have an excellent opportunity here to take a victory. He hasn't done so yet. The closest he's got was 3rd place twice, one at Knockhill and one at Silverstone. He could take his first win of the season here if he can pull off a good restart and hold on for the next 6 3/4 minutes. Across the line they go then to get racing back underway in the 270R Championship race number 1 here at Paddock at Brands Hatch. And at Paddock Hill Bend, Carl Jones is going on the attack, as is also Blair McConaughey, who gets a great run off corner. Up Hellwood Hill they go, and look at Wes Payne in 4th place, car number 38. Watch for him. Now, remind you, he started all the way back, if I remind myself where he was, in 19th on the grid. So from 19th to 4th at the moment, if he can make it onto the podium, what a drive that will be. He has got time to do it. If he wants to get himself higher than 4th, he's going to have to get his elbows out and get gutsy with 1 or 2 of his moves. Through the left-hander of Surtees, the right-hander of McLaren, all the way at the top of the circuit at Clearways. And then as the circuit opens out now through that fast Clark curve, you see there McConaughey was just a little bit out of the toe from Carl Jones, but Jones has latched onto the rear of Stephen Lyle absolutely perfectly. Down the pit straight he goes, looks to the outside, side by side, late braking into the right-hander, down the hill at Paddock. Carl Jones keeps going, he keeps moving down the outside, holds on. He's going to try and squeeze himself alongside as they run up towards the top of the hill at Druids. As you can see, Lyle keeps that car neatly in the middle of the road and just hugs the apex to try and force the Carl Jones to be backed into Blair McConaughey and co. And that's starting to work here because Blair is just putting Jones and Lyle a bit more under pressure here. 4th for Payne, 5th for Clayfan, 6th for Cresswell. Jones, Wales, Brunton, Morris, top 10 so far. Still 5 and a bit minutes to go. Again, Lyle under threat as they come back into McLaren through clearways. So much pressure being applied to Stephen Lyle. He's been a front-running contender pretty much from the word go when he did his first rounds. I think it was at Knockhill he joined in the championship. He didn't take place to put part at Donington Park. But every race he drives, he certainly proved to himself and the paddock that he's absolutely worthy of being towards the front. He's driving as if he's been here for quite a while. Up the hill again, back towards Druids once more. Down the outside again under brakes goes Carl Jones. He's forcing Stephen Lyle to go to that tight defensive line that's slowing him up. And look at everyone else that's closing in. Clayfan's closing in. Cresswell's closing in. Fraser Jones is closing in. So is Peter Wales. So is William Brunt. And the number 56 in there too. 56 is David Morgan. David Morgan's up to 10th from 24th on the grid. So some incredible moves through the pack. As now into the lead has gone Carl Jones. There's a move that's been made on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, and now Carl Jones, if he's got the pace in clear air, will try and pull away here. So Carl Jones then now hits the front, but Stephen Lyle's not finished. He's got the chance to try and get him back here. Oh, he dummies to the inside line. If he can pull this off, it'll be a superb move. They're wheel to wheel up the inside of the paddock. Hill Bend. If he makes it stick, he'll make it happen. That is a brilliant pass, a fantastic dummy move up in the paddock Hill Bend, and this guy's got a rookie cross on the back of him. Fantastic stuff from Stephen Lyle. Back into the lead. He's taken it to Carl Jones and said, right, you want to pass me? Try that one on for size. Fantastic. He really isn't afraid to get his elbows out and make a gutsy move. That was brilliant stuff. They're all stacking up behind him, though. Top 3 are trying to pull away a bit more here. McConaughey sat there in 3rd place, swarming all over the rear of Carl Jones's car. There's still just under 3.5 minutes to go, so there's all to play for here at the moment. The scrap for 4th looks pretty tasty, too. We've got Dan Clayfan. Where's Payne? Darryl Cresswell. Fraser Jones running a bit wide. Here comes Peter Wales. He wants to get involved too. He started 10th, currently 8th at the moment. Here's your top 3. Lyle astern, just over 3 minutes to go. Lyle, Jones, McConaughey, that's the top 3. Clayfan 4th. Where's Payne in 5th? And again, looking to the outside line, Carl Jones wants the lead. Side by side, exit the corner, but Carl Jones has run wide. And up the middle, looks like it's going to be Blair McConaughey. There's that fight going on 5th, 6th and 7th. Meanwhile, there's McConaughey up the inside of Charles Jones. They're going to be side by side down towards Graham Hill Bend, but it'll be the inside line, the right line that Carl Jones needs to hold on to 2nd. Meanwhile, Dan Clayfan's defending like his life depends on it from Wes Payne, and he too now is going to come under threat from Darryl Cresswell. 3 separate battles kicking off here for the lead for 4th and for 7th place. There are scraps everywhere in the top 10. This is brilliant stuff. Less than 2.5 minutes to go as they come back out through Clark Curve. And there is no telling who's going to win this race. Is it going to be Lyle? Will it be Carl Jones? Will it be McConaughey? Will it be anyone behind the top 3? Side by side, back to Paddock Hill Bend once more. Carl Jones tries to break later, doesn't work. Lyle goes toe to toe with him into the right-hander, down the hill. Look at the run that McConaughey gets up the inside of Jones and has to try and slingshot past Lyle, who throws the block. Look at Wes Payne down the outside line, past everyone. He's going to steam down the outside of 1, 2, maybe 3 of them into the hairpin at Druids. He gets past Darryl Cresswell, past Dan Clayfan at last. Up the inside for 3rd, past McConaughey. It's going to be side by side on the exit. McConaughey's put 2 wheels onto the curb, but now they're side by side with Wes Payne on the inside line for Surtees. If he stays where he is, he'll be on the inside for Surtees, which McConaughey has to capitulate, and he does, up to P3. Remember, this is Wes Payne from 19th on the grid into a current podium place, and there's still, I think, 2 more laps to go. That was Darryl Cresswell battling with Fraser Jones. He's got Fraser Jones to his inside now, and also in there to his Peter Wales. There's more battles further back as well, but it's the leaders we need to see. There's a scrap going on there. That's between, I think that's McLean and Heath as they come. McLean and someone further back in the pack. So I'll have to have a check on that in a minute. Meanwhile, Lyle and Jones continue to go at it, but where's Payne? Is there a possibility here with about a lap and a half to go? Could he steal a 2nd place or even a win? It's possible. but he has to really get his elbows out and get a move on. He's got a great exit from Surtees, down the Cooper Straight, side by side, looking up the inside. He's going for second place on Carl Jones, into Surtees, they're side by side, but still Jones holds on. Wes Payne trying to get the undercut here as they turn back in towards the right-hander at Clearways. And back on the power again. They're going to head across the start-finish line to start the last lap of this. It's another typical thriller of a Caterham race, and there's still no guarantee who's going to win this. It's 5 for the lead down the pit straight. Here comes Carl Jones, side by side for the final lap of the race. Wes Payne looks to try and shoot the gap through the middle. That was closed quickly. Into paddock they go. Here comes McConaughey up for third place again. He's looking up the inside of Wes Payne, but there's no way to get through. Back up the hill again, back towards Drury's, down the outside for second, looks Wes Payne, he's going for it, gets forced out wide. Here comes McConaughey back up the inside, but still he cannot get through. If Wes Payne can still at least stay here, he'll be delighted with a third place. Half a lap for Stephen Lyle to hold on, but it might be a sprint finish, the first photo finish that we've had for the victory possibly. Carl Jones is looking this way and that, but he still cannot find a way past the man with the rookie plate, Stephen Lyle, but he's driving like he's far from it. In towards McLaren, into Clearways and Clark Kerr for the final time. It will with a sprint to the checkered flag. Who's going to pick it up? The run's the checkered flag. He hasn't finished higher than 4th this season. That's about to change because Stephen Lyle, I think, will try and hold on. Carl Jones closing. It's going to be side by side to line 3 abreast at the flag. Who got it on the line? Oh, Jones stole it on the line. Unbelievable. Carl Jones stole it on the line. That is a sensational finish. Carl Jones steals the victory by the monumental gap of 31 thousandths of a second. My goodness. Carl Jones, what a steal. An absolute steal from Carl Jones. He takes the victory by that short of a margin. But hats off to Alistair, for Stephen Lyle. What a drive he put up the entire race. It will be his best finish of the season. But he was merely denied by 31 thousandths of a second for his first Caterham victory. That will be agonising, but he'll be delighted and thrilled with that second place. And Carl Jones is just tapping the roll cage. He knows that was a brilliant finish. Wow, Wes Payne gets third. That's an incredible drive for him. Let's just run down that. Carl Jones somehow wins that by 31 thousandths of a second. It's then Stephen Lyle second. Wes Payne takes the third from 19th on the grid and the fastest lap point to boot. Then McConaughey's 4th from Dan Clayfan in 5th. Then Cresswell, Wales, Jones, Morgan and Brunt round out the top 10. Curtis gets 11th, McLean is 12th, and it's Herndon, followed by Steele, Gaunt, Harry Eyre managed to fight back from the back of the pack after he spun to 16th. Duncan Cook comes next, then Paul Farrell, Michael Curley, and John Cox round out the top 20. And then Oliver Smith, Stephen Hutchison, and Richard Hoare, the finishers. Only one non-finisher, that was Ryan Errol, who came out in the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend after he went off and caused the safety car in that race.